He's on parole for multiple counts of indecency with a child. His numerous convictions include sex crimes against a 17-year-old girl and a 5-year-old boy. State officials even call 59-year-old Jordan Moore a high-risk sex offender. And yet, here he is riding a Metro bus that's packed with kids on their way to school. Unfortunately, he's far from being the only high-risk sex offender that we find in the midst of school children. Needless to say, our findings came as a shock to some parents.
Riding the bus with the offenders, I would be very, very concerned because there's no protection there.
I would think it would be a dangerous situation.
Moore, along with hundreds of convicted sex offenders and other ex-cons, live at the Reid Center. In previous hidden camera investigations, we showed you how some of the convicted felons who live at Reid were captured on tape, smoking what appeared to be crack and dealing what cons identified as drugs inside the tax-funded facility. Over the last few months, Fox 26 Investigates rode Metro buses with ex-cons who board at the Reid facility. We also took our hidden cameras to the Kashmir Metro Transit Center, where hundreds of school kids and several sex offenders end up within just inches of each other on a regular basis.
It would be potentially nice to say that under no circumstances do we even let them do this, but realistically that's just not feasible because of the way we have to get them from point A to point B.
Parole officials tell us sex offenders from Reid are prohibited from riding Metro buses before 9 a.m. on weekdays, unless it's for certain reasons.
Employment and medical will be the primary reasons we only want them on the bus early.
In addition to Moore, we found 4 other Reid residents described as high risk by the state riding buses with children. They include 48-year-old Robert Tolliver, who, in addition to being convicted of sexual assault of a child, picked up another sex crime conviction for indecent exposure while living at Reid. This man, 46-year-old James Earl Nix, is on parole for sexually attacking a 15-year-old girl. Then there's convicted rapist Robert Felder. Even though these men are all ordered to wear electronic monitoring devices, parole officials admit during one 24-hour period, they had no idea where Felder was or what he was doing.
He had an electronic monitoring device. How did he abscond?
That, again, won't prevent you from running off.
Parole officials say because of this man's predatory criminal past, he is one of only 25 sex offenders statewide that must wear a global tracking device. 46-year-old Richard Sarabella is on parole for sexually attacking young girls, and yet we find him within inches of children before 8 a.m. on a September school morning. He was allowed to leave in the early a.m., parole officials say, to look for a job.
You're so concerned about him. He has a global tracking device on him. You've only got 25 people that have those, and yet he's able to say, I'm going to go look for a job.
Right.
Well, okay, yeah, go ride the bus with a bunch of kids.
I've got to get him employed.
Out of 8 sex offenders we found riding buses with children, 6 of them were all out for the same reason: medical appointments. We even spotted this convicted sex offender, James Lee Thomas, 2 mornings in a row, both times for medical appointments.
It's real simple. Make your appointments later on in the day where there's no kids, or have a supervisor get on the bus with them.
Have we gone to the doctors of these offenders and tried to do that? I would have to answer that I don't think we have.
Parole officials say most of the offenders go to county hospitals and usually have to wait for hours. Still, some say something needs to be done to limit the number of sex offenders rubbing shoulders with unsuspecting children on their way to school.
In this situation, we know that they have a high risk level of reoffending. We know that they're real close to kids. We know that some of them are together.
Right.
That just seems like that could just spell disaster.
And I guess my response is that I would ideally, and if we could, that would be something I would like to see, that we didn't do it at all.